I just want to get a prediction maybe. Where would we be this time next year? Because you're talking about September. He's always over here in September, Simon. He comes over for Well Child. Last year we didn't meet the King. This year he did briefly meet the King. We're reporting that Harry's reaction was that it felt like an official visit. What are you thinking this time next year? We'll be sitting down here and discussing that it moved on from the official visit stage, and we've got Harry and the King walking around the garden, hugging, having loads of pictures, going to an engagement? Or are we going to be stuck in this moment?
Maybe not loads of pictures. I think, he's said he wants reconciliation. Maybe he will stump the bill for the full security that he wants for his family in London, which he feels he's not getting from the government and Scotland Yard after that court case. So maybe next year he brings the family over and there is, one official photo, but I don't think it'll be lots of engagements. How about you?
I mean, I don't see Meghan stepping foot in this country for a long time. I mean, she's even expressed sort of that herself. But in terms of Harry, I mean, I think that he's really trying to get back into the fold before his father, passes, because after that, I don't think there's a chance. So when we want to look 1 year into the future, yes, I would love happy families, but I don't think they trust Harry for a minute. So I think that that's what's going on. They're not going to allow him back into sort of the sanctity of that royal fold.
The Australian Prime Minister, or your Australian Prime Minister,
yeah.
Anthony Albanese.
Finally useful.
He was in Scotland. He went to Balmoral to spend some time with the King at the weekend. Interesting, I think. He spent 90 minutes with the King in Balmoral at an official visit, and he handed over a framed photograph of the King, Camilla and his partner, very similar to Harry's official visit up in when he went to Clarence House. But did you see his comments afterwards? He was interviewed by, I think, the Australian press were up there with him, and he's extended an invite to Catherine and William to go to Australia.
Yes, I think this is Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, wanting to boost our economy, get the spirit in Australia up. I mean, we always love a state visit in Australia. We absolutely love it when any of the royals touch down. There's absolute fever that happens. And I mean, even when the King and the Queen, Camilla, came a couple years back, that was absolutely, everyone went berserk and bonkers. I remember just kind of being a bystander in some of the events that they went to. And yeah, you've never seen anything like it, because we only get sort of tastes of the royals, few and far between. And of course, there is a bit of a Republican movement in Australia. It's always been a question. And we've got Anthony Albanese is he's a Labour Prime Minister. He's a bit more on that side, but I think he's got a lot of respect for the royal family. And I guess once that invitation is extended, it's hard to say no, right?
With this situation now where he said he's hopeful, there's a standing invitation for a tour in the coming period. I mean, what we have a lot of Australian viewers that are getting very excited. I've seen on my social media timelines, people were very excited about what would it mean to Australia to have Catherine, William, and maybe the 3 children.
I think it would mean everything, genuinely. I think that they represent this sort of nuclear family that everyone wants to look up to. The kids are now old enough to actually properly appreciate and experience things. And I also think this would be a great foray into royal touring for them, especially if they go during the summertime, which I would recommend, sort of a January type of date. It would mean a lot to Australia. And I think that every time they come, the economy is boosted, and I don't want to make it all about money, but I think that's what Anthony Albanese is thinking about. Not to be cynical, but yeah, I mean, Catherine and William, they're the favourites in Australia.
There would not be, I don't think, there is a bigger tour that could possibly be arranged anywhere in the world than that family of 5 to go to Australia with the setting and the people out there. We recently went there for the King and Queen's tour, and it was absolutely incredible. But Simon, you were there, I would believe, back in 2014.
2014 was a mega
William
tour.
And Catherine and George was
a baby. Yeah, he was there at the zoo, meeting some of the animals at the zoo. That was a mega tour. I mean, William eventually will one day, unless they get round to a referendum, will be King of Australia. It is one of the 15 countries where the head of state, the King, is the head of state. So that tour was huge. The crowds were amazing. I interviewed somebody from the Australian Republic and the movement there. during that tour, and he said, "We've blown it. We're going to have to wait
Yeah.
years. We're going to have to wait years now." By the way, the Harry and Meghan one in 2018, that
Yes,
was huge as well.
I remember that.
That was before everything went a bit pear-shaped. But I remember on the William and Catherine one, they'd been married a couple of years then, and the crowds were so big they had to split up to do the walkabouts. So they would arrive at a venue. The walkabout would be divided into two, and one side would get William and the other side would get Catherine. And when the side who were getting William realised who they were getting, you just hear this, oh. And luckily he laughed about it in the way that Charles didn't laugh about it in the 1980s with Charles and Diana. But I wasn't covering those, but apparently Charles didn't.
That's right. He said he needed 2 wives, didn't he, at some stage, or needed 2 Princess Diana.
There was a big cheer for the side that got Catherine.
Well, it's a very rigorous trip, though, and her health is obviously still got a big question mark over it. Obviously, she is in remission from cancer, but she just only gets wheeled out for those very, very sort of important events, such as the state banquet that we had 2 weeks ago. So I think that it's a very chock-a-block schedule. And will she be well enough to do that? As you said, because she's the star of the show, she will be needed basically on a 24-hour cycle.
Sorry.
And they don't announce, I mean, as we know, they don't announce a lot of these engagements for Catherine way in advance, just in case they have to cancel. As you know, the King has had to cancel some engagements as well. Not many, but they don't. That's a big deal, obviously. Just the flight itself, just the journey itself, is a big deal.
We've got a blueprint. I mean, the King had a day or 2 off when we arrived around this time last year. He had like a little, spare day, and it was only about 6 maybe days, and then we went to Samoa. So it was quite a truncated one for the King. So there is a bit. You mentioned there about Catherine, well, she always does. She often steals the show. People want to see her, they want to meet her, and they want to get a picture with her or be in the same orbit of the Princess of Wales. When you went, I'm sure there was a quote from a Republican group saying that Prince George was like the referendum killer, or he was the Republican killer. If they took the 3 children, would imagine Louis, Charlotte and George, they could steal the show from Catherine.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think there'll be at every engagement. What happened last time, obviously George was just a baby, was that he stayed in Sydney and William and Kate went off and did engagements at various other cities and places and then came back to Sydney each night. Well, obviously the kids aren't babies anymore. But I mean, Louis, all our eyes are on Louis on the few public engagements he makes to see what he's up to see whether Charlotte is telling him to behave and whatever. It'd be very interesting to see how the opinion polls go in Australia and New Zealand and Canada over the next few years. But, there are no imminent plans to hold one, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, Australia is so divided at the moment politically. I do think that the Prime Minister's got something in his mind about they are the great unifier for us. And I think that would be incredible.
It's obviously weird to have your head of state as somebody who lives on the other side of the world. I mean, that is obviously an empire hangover. But my question is when and obviously Republicans felt that the last referendum was rigged against them last time in 1999. But when will there be another one in Australia?
You say it's the other side of the world, but as Samara proves, a lot of them come over here as well. There's a lot of cross-pollination, but they might be 10,000 miles away, but I think we're very close. I feel we're very close to Australians, particularly that trip with the King recently. I think it was such a wonderful, warm reception for him. I thought it brought both countries a lot closer, even though the King is 10,000 miles away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are still a lot of monarchists in Australia.
Oh, yeah.